It's a beautiful day here at Rocky Point, Port Moody, British Columbia. We're checking out the Cube Supreme Sport Hybrid 1 400. Super long name, but it's really an awesome bike. And this thing is just fun to ride around the neighborhood, the city. It's super easy to approach. It looks great. It's available in 4 frame sizes, and it costs $3,500 US. Not too bad, considering that it's got a Bosch Performance Line Cruise motor that's higher torque. A lot of times with bikes like this, you'll see Bosch Active Line Plus. They don't give you the same high pedal cadence support, meaning that you have to shift gears to reach higher top speeds. And they just don't give you that torque, which on a bike like this, where you might have the rack loaded up with gear, maybe panniers or a trunk bag, maybe even a child seat, it's nice to have that extra power. I'm a big fan. The 400 in the name is talking about that PowerTube 400 battery, and I'll show you that a little bit later. So I just want to look at this again. We've got a grayish blue frame color, really premium color with those nice minimalist accents, light color down there on the SR Suntour NEX 30, and then the Cube branding right there. Cube is a German company. It was started in 1993, and they're in like 60 countries. They're all over. You're going to get excellent support with a bike like this. They're only sold through dealers, and the Bosch e-bike systems, they give like a 2-year comprehensive warranty. So I really kind of trust it. And then being able to have those 4 different frame sizes means you're going to be able to dial in fit right from the start. But you can also see this adjustable angle 10 to 90 degree stem here. I mean, this thing, you know, upright Dutch body position, you're going to be less efficient, but you're going to see exactly where you're going and just be very relaxed. Or you can bring it down a little bit, be a bit more aggressive. A mid-rise swept back handlebar, locking ergonomic grips, hydraulic disc brakes, 3-finger levers here with adjustable reach. So again, depending on the frame size you get, there's a little set screw here, and you can bring the lever in or let it out a bit more so that your hands are comfortable. I just love that. I want to show you these disc brakes as well down here. The rotors are 180 millimeters, which is quite large. I mean, a lot of times I'm seeing 160 millimeter rotors on a bike like this that's more of a neighborhood type of setup. So a little bit more surface area and a better mechanical advantage for stopping these larger wheels. These are the Continental Contact Urban. They are e-bike rated up to 50 kilometers per hour, Safety Pro. They have this reflective sidewall stripe. And you can see here, the rims have these reinforcement eyelets. They're 36 spokes instead of 32, and the tire is a bit higher volume. So this is 28 by 2 inches wide, and the 2 inches is going to give you a little bit more comfort, kind of a squish or vibration dampening. But the 28-inch height is going to give you a lower attack angle, so you smooth over those cracks and bumps more easily instead of falling into them like with a smaller wheel diameter. So I just love to see that. Quick release on the front and the rear. Very standard 100 millimeter hub spacing, 135 in the rear. It's just easy to get parts and service stuff like this. Bike shops are going to be more familiar with it, and I appreciate that. So back to the other comfort upgrades here. We do have a suspension fork. It's a little bit adjustable. Under these plastic caps, you can dial in the preload, so you can like preload the springs for your body weight. I haven't messed with them. The caps are a little tricky to get off, so it's a little bit more basic. The fork's going to weigh a little bit more because it is a spring fork. It's not an air fork. And by the way, the bike weighs about 56.5 pounds. It is a little bit heavier because you have the suspension and the fenders and the rack, but the weight is distributed pretty well. The bike's even front to rear, and I appreciate that. The saddle, it's a little bit firmer than I was expecting. Like I'm pushing down pretty hard here. My seat bones end up right there, but it's fairly wide, and a saddle is something that's easy to replace if you want something that's squishier, but you're not going to get that matching blue color, which is really nice to see. 30.9 millimeters on that rigid aluminum alloy seat post. That's nice because you can switch this out easily with a 30.9 millimeter suspension post, or you could get like a 27.2 millimeter with like a shim down here. There are lots of options. It's just nice that it's a little bigger, a little bit thicker. One thing that I wish they would have added though is bottle cage bosses right here. I realized they might not have been able to do it here because you got the battery cover, and they did a top entry design because there really isn't a whole lot of room here below the down tube with the fender here too. See, there's just, you could get a trunk bag that has like a little bottle holster or something, but then you got to turn around and reach back. So a better idea might be to get like a cup holder that clamps to your handlebar up here. And I do want to complain a little bit about this rear rack. it's only rated to 18 kilograms instead of 25 kilograms like a lot of other racks. Now it looks nice, but you'll notice there aren't like metal stays coming from the front of the rack down here to the seat stays. Instead, there's like a metal piece underneath the fender that connects right there. So it's actually sturdier than it looks because you've only got one support arm here, but I wish they would have gone a little bit, you know, more heavy duty so that I could do like a child seat or something that weighs more. 18 kilograms, about 40 pounds versus 25 kilograms, that would have been, you know, 55 pounds. You do have this spring latch. I think Cube has some quick connect interface things, and then you come with this bungee cord for securing like a light jacket or something if you wanted to. And this is standard gauge tubing, so you can do panniers and stuff pretty easily. It's not bad. It's clean and sporty, but I wish it was a little bit stronger. And if you see this acid branding here or on the crank arms or pedals, that's Cube's in-house brand. So we do have a 4 LED rear light, quite good. It's actually pretty bright and you can see it from multiple angles. And that headlight, let me just turn the bike on here, press the power button. It's got side windows, so you can see it from more angles, and it's quite bright. This is the Pro E60. I'm guessing it's like 60 lux or 60 lumens. Quite bright, aimable, but it is on the arch of the suspension fork, so it could rattle around a little bit more. It'd be nice if it was right up here at the stem and the handlebar, but then if you adjusted that, the light might kind of get out of adjustment. So I guess I understand why they put it down here. And there's a really nice interface on the fork itself. Now you can see that rear light. Like I said, I mean, it's just super, super bright. So you're completely protected from water with these long fenders. They've even gone so far as to put a slap guard here on the chainstay and one here on the base of the down tube, as well as this plastic covering for the motor, and then like almost a full surround chain guard right here, so you're not going to get your pants or your dress end snagged or greasy. I love to see that. 165 millimeter crank arms, 170 is standard, so they're a little bit shorter, and that was interesting to see because these are taller wheels. I mean, the bike is fairly high, but they've tried to keep it compact by bringing the wheel as close as they could to that down tube without colliding. Plastic pedals, they're extra wide, give you a nice big surface area. They're acid, so that's Cube in-house. 38 tooth steel chainring, nothing fancy, no guide, no narrow wide tooth pattern, but for a neighborhood bike, that's fine. Back here, 9-speed 11 to 36 tooth cassette, which isn't bad. It could have been 32 or even 28. So 9 speeds, 11 to 36, that's just fine for up to 20 miles per hour in North America, 25 kilometers per hour in Europe. Good stuff. Shimano Alivio. This is not a base level derailleur. It's going to be a little bit lighter and shift a little bit smoother. Love to see that. The other cool thing is with the motor, you're actually getting shift detection on this thing. So as you're shifting gears, it's not perfect, but there's software that listens for the torque change, and it eases off the pressure so that you don't wear through the chain and these sprockets and the teeth on them quite as quickly. I love that. Let's flip around to the other side of the bike here. You can actually see right down here, there's a magnet, and there's a sensor in here that's measuring your rear wheel speed. I'm calling this out because in the past there was a plastic housing here and a spoke mounted magnet, and it just created some imbalance in the wheel, and that spoke could get bumped out of position. So a lot of the mountain bikes switched to this more integrated design, and it's awesome to see that kind of trickling down to a bike like this, where you're not riding off-road a whole lot and it's not quite as aggressive, but they're still giving you that higher quality solution. So props to Cube for doing that. We can see here the Bosch Performance Line motor. This is the Cruise model, 3rd generation. So there is a newer generation of motors from Bosch called the Smart System, and they're slowly bringing these older models into that new setup, and they've got like a smartphone app and stuff. This is still very good. You don't have reduction gearing on the other side. You have a full-size chainring. It's not going to create any friction or drag as you pedal the bike without assist, or as you exceed that 20 mile per hour, 25 kilometer per hour. And again, I'm just so happy they went with just a higher powered motor, up to 65 Newton meters of support and 300% support feedback. So it's a very good motor, almost overkill for just that neighborhood city riding, and I much prefer it. It's a very satisfying motor. It's measuring that rear wheel speed, pedal cadence, and pedal torque over 1,000 times per second, and it's fairly quiet. It's pretty efficient too. I mean, on a setup like this with the smoother tires and stuff at the higher pressure, this motor is just going to do wonders. Weighs about 7.05 pounds. I love the internal cable routing. I love the flick bell here. And now let's take a look at that display. They've gone with the most basic display from Bosch. This is the Purion. It's grayscale, very intuitive. It's just got a big plus and minus button. At the top is the power, and at the bottom we have walk mode. So I'm just gonna run through this real quick. We're in kilometers per hour right now, but if we hold minus and tap power, we can switch to miles per hour, which is pretty cool. Off is the level of assist that we're using right now. So it's basically just a heavy bicycle with integrated lights. If you want to turn those lights on or off, you can hold the plus button. You'll see the little icon right now, and it just disappears. So I'm going to turn those back on, and it seems to remember from the last time that I rode the bike. And if I just tap plus, we'll go through the levels of assist. So I have Eco at the lowest, Tour, Sport, and Turbo. Now, if you hold the minus button for a couple seconds, it switches to some other readouts like trip distance here, total distance, and range. And range is really cool because based on the level of assist that you've chosen, it's going to give you an estimate. So we're in kilometers per hour. I'm going to switch it back to miles per hour. So it's saying, oh, you think you can go 24 miles in turbo. And if we take it all the way down to Eco, now it says, okay, 55 miles. That's based on the last mile of riding and how the motor's actually performing. It's very dynamic. If you weigh more, or maybe you've got some extra cargo, or let's say you have the tire pressure lower, those are all going to impact your range. And of course, how much energy you actually contribute as a pedaler. So again, I think this is pretty good. It's not removable. You can swivel it a little bit. It's grayscale, and it's sort of always backlit with this faint white glow. The big trade-off here with the Purion is that it's not compatible with any of the Bosch smartphone apps. So you're not going to have heart rate monitoring or mapping or anything. Of course, you can use your phone with just a separate app, maybe Google Maps or something like that. But you're not going to be able to charge off of this either. There is a little micro USB port on the side, but that's only for diagnostics. It's not active for third-party accessories. I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate walk mode real quick here for you. So if we press the button and then hold plus, the motor kicks in, and this is a great way to move the bike if maybe you got a flat tire, or you're in a crowded park, or you're coming up a ramp from a cellar, something like that. And while we're looking at this portion of the bike, I want to point out, because of where that kickstand is positioned, you can get pedal lock if you're backing the bike around, or if you swing the pedals around to access the charging port. So there it is, there's the charging port. You don't have to take the battery off the bike to fill it. But where this is located, it is directly in the path of that crank arm. It's a little bit low, you know, it could get a little bit more dust and water in there, and it doesn't seem to seat perfectly. Even when I line this up and push it in, it just seems to come back out. That said, Bosch has highly water resistant hardware. They have a 2-year comprehensive warranty. I would say it's very reliable. Just the positioning, it's kind of low. You really have to kind of get down here to plug it in, or you have to take the battery off the bike. And I want to go through that in just a second here after I show you the charger. So you do get a standard charger, 36 volt, 4 amp, weighs 1.6 pounds. I really love this thing. It's compact, it's lightweight, removable wall side, and that 4 amps is just a lot faster than the 2 amp chargers I see on some of the more affordable bikes out there. So yeah, it's even got rubber feet. It feels like it's really well done. Inside the box, there are some manuals and stuff. But as I said, just having to get down here and plug it in, careful that if you're doing that and you stand up, not to hit your head on the left handlebar. Now the alternative is to take the battery pack off the bike. So let's press this little circle right here, take this cover off. It weighs about 0.3 pounds according to my little scale. It does not lock to the frame. So if you're at a bike rack or somewhere else and someone just took it, that's kind of it. You guess you have to get a replacement. It's not color matched like the fork and even the saddle are. But in some ways, that makes it probably easier to replace because it's not like a special design. The parts probably shared across other bikes. It does have a rubberized edge, which is nice. Seems like it would keep water and stuff out of the bike. I'm just going to set this over here. Now, getting the battery off the bike, you have to unlock it first. And there's the ABIS key port, and I want to point out that this is one of those keys that you can match to folding locks and other accessories from ABIS. I think that's really great. This is more expensive, it seems more secure, and by positioning that locking core below the cover, this is going to stay clean. It's not going to get as much dust and water as the charging port. So anyway, go ahead and unlock the battery. twist to the right, and it kind of pops it out to this first position, and then you have to press on the top of the mechanism here to unlock it. And this is the PowerTube 400 with like this extra elongation portion, which sort of acts like a little handle. Yeah, you know, once you get it off the bike, it's fairly easy to manage. This thing is 36 volts, 11 amp hours for roughly 400 watt hours of capacity. It's part of why the range we were seeing isn't enormous, but it weighs less while giving you the option to, I think, upgrade to the 500, and that's why they've got that little extra piece there. And again, you can charge it off the bike, which is nice. Ideally, you want to keep your battery in a cool, dry location, set it down very carefully like that. Extreme heat can degrade the cells and you won't get as many full charge cycles, and extreme cold is going to temporarily stunt your range. You might get half the range on a really cold day. So it's nice to be able to bring this inside, charge it separately from the bike, especially if you got to leave the bike in a garage or somewhere else that just has those extreme temperatures. So we're going to line up that little notch at the bottom like this, kind of set it in. And now it's kind of the tricky part. You actually have to unlock it and twist this before you can push the battery in. So it requires usually 2 hands. Again, it's a lot easier than the upward mounting one. You're not going to drop the battery, but there are those 2 steps, and then you have to push it until it clicks like that. Now we can remove the key, and now we can put that plastic cover back on. And in my experience, I mean, maybe because it's brand new, but you really have to like push it. See, it's not on yet. It can still come off. You really have to push it until it snaps. There we go. And now the button is back. When you're dealing with this deep wave step-through frame, there's that trade-off between approachability and then weight distribution and stiffness. You don't want a frame that's going to kind of wiggle and flex too much. And there's a little bit of frame flex here, but not a whole lot. It's done well enough, and gosh, just the welds and everything are super smooth. The bike is very beautiful. Okay guys, I'm gonna do a little ride test. I like to do this in turbo so you get the most audio feedback from the motor. You can expect that it would be quieter than this if you were on one of the lower levels of assist. One thing that I want to point out here is when you cycle the pedals backwards, the chain actually goes backwards, and that's going to make it easier to clean and lube the chain. Just kind of nice. Not every Bosch motor does that. Many e-bike systems, the pedals spin, but the chain remains fixed, so that's kind of cool. Yeah, I'm just going to pedal along. So guys, that is the Cube Supreme Sport Hybrid 1 400. It's a bike that I really appreciate. I think a lot of people, you know, you get excited about the really fancy mountain bike or the sporty bike, but this one's just, it's super approachable, it's very comfortable, and there's so much utility on offer. I want to thank the folks at City Cycles in Langley for loaning me this bike. This is a free review, and my goal is just to be thorough and help you navigate the space. There's so many companies out there. I've been really impressed with Cube. I feel like they've made a lot of good decisions. Maybe there's a little bit of room for improvement with like the bottle cage bosses or whatever, but maybe the kickstand. But I've got to say, you know, it supports the bike well. And ultimately, even though there's only one color, I think the color is very nice, kind of a unisex appeal, and the safety, they've nailed it. For the full written review on this, I'll see you back at ElectricBikeReview.com, where I have a comparison tool, so you can compare this to other cruisers or city models. There's also a forum, so you can talk to people about the best accessories and stuff, and just, you know, get feedback about Cube as a brand. I love you guys. Ride safe. Hope you're having fun out there. I'll see you next time.